Falling snow and cold temperatures have left me longing for the warm embrace of the sun and summer breeze. But I can only dream of the coming season, as it is still a ways away. However, now is a perfect time to complete some projects and prepare for the adventures to come. With the shop warming up, I dive right in and start by removing the main sheet block and cleat. I will also be removing the keel winch and support to make room for my new traveler setup and find out only 2 screws were holding the support in place. I'm pretty excited to get rid of this rusty old winch and plan on replacing it with a cascading block system and a rope clutch so that the keel can be quickly raised and lowered. This boat is 54 years old and the gel coat definitely shows its age. I plan on painting the boat and giving it newfound beauty. But for now, I'm focused on completing all of the modifications that I want to do before starting on the finish. This project of installing the Traveler will be very invasive and will make the boat look much worse before it gets better. The build begins by gathering lots of measurements and making sure that the Traveler I install will not interfere with anything else in the cockpit. This tape represents the farthest that the tiller extends into the cockpit. I purchased this Traveler setup about 6 months ago and have just been waiting for a rainy day to start the install. Or in this case, a snowy day. I went with the Harken 2-to-1 system, which should work great on this little boat. I could cut some wedges and install it just like this, but that would be way too easy, so I decided to inset it in the benches so that the track will be flush with the surface. I'm hoping that this will prevent stubbing my toes and also still allow for lounging in the cockpit. They also leave a little sitting room to make it easy to slide fore and aft when tacking or jibing. I measure and try to keep the cutouts square and find that old boats are just like old houses. Nothing is square, and measurements from one side to the other vary quite a bit. But this is okay, as it really only needs to be close and visually appealing. I like to use a multi-tool with a metal blade to cut through the fiberglass. It makes very little dust, but I can catch what little there is with a shop vac. At this point, I was surprised at how poorly the fiberglass was adhered to the plywood. It was like this from the factory, and explains why the decks felt a little soft and creaked a little. I was also surprised to see that there was no rot in the plywood. I thought for sure that water would have found its way into the core after so long, but it was dry as a bone. Here you can see the plywood core construction and how it adhered in some places but not in others. Luckily, the whole underneath side is adhered well, so I just have to deal with the top layer. Next, I measure and cut so the track will be recessed. I'm using a combination of 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch marine grade plywood to build the bridge support for the track. The design will incorporate both a horizontal and vertical support to add strength. These are the fillers that I had to rabbet into the supports so that the pieces would end up flush. I decided to give the vertical support some arch, so off to the bandsaw. And here I put in temporary screws to hold it all together. All right, we're back in the shop today, working on the Ready Duck. So yesterday we got some holes cut in the boat and got everything kind of dry fit for the beam here. The beam is going to hold the Traveler, and today I'm going to try to get that installed and also work on the decks. As we saw, some of the decks were kind of were delaminated or never were laminated from the factory. There are a lot of air pockets in there, so what we're going to do is try to drill some holes and squeeze some epoxy in there, and then tighten the decks down to the plywood, because the bottom side of the plywood is good and adhered. It's just however they manufactured this boat, the top section of fiberglass did not adhere to the plywood. So we're gonna go ahead and try to fix that, and it should make it a lot stronger. I used a screwdriver and tapped the surface to locate all the voids that I would drill into. Eventually, I decided to drill the whole seat to make sure all the core was in good shape. With cut blunt screws, I was able to lift the top layer to allow epoxy to be injected easier. Gel coat was also removed in preparation for glassing the new bridge in. And now the fun part, filling all the holes with epoxy and allowing it to flow and absorb into the plywood. This process took most of the day, and when it started to set, I removed the blunt screws and used new screws to tighten the fiberglass to the core. Then I let it cure for a few days. Next, I cut the track to length, carefully with a hacksaw. I also decided to make the top part of the bridge one piece and cut radiuses on the front and back. This decision would make the whole system stronger while adding very little extra weight. It was now time to glue it all together, so it was cleaned with acetone twice. Next, the West System epoxy was mixed up along with some wood flour to give the glue a thicker consistency so it wouldn't run everywhere. I like a creamy peanut butter consistency, just don't eat it. The screws were put back in to hold it temporarily until the epoxy sets. Then fillets using the same thickened epoxy were added to every corner to build strength and give the fiberglass covering a smooth transition throughout the corners. Next, 1/4-inch plywood was cut and fit to fill the remaining gaps. These were glued in using the same method. Don't forget to get epoxy all over your fingers. I keep forgetting to buy more rubber gloves. Well, we definitely made some progress, and I think I was right saying we have to make the boat look much worse in order to make it look better. At least I can visualize what it will look like in the end, and I am motivated to get the Ruddy Duck back in the water. So join us next time where we make the boat look even worse for the sake of progress.